The Lowe's Closeout Event means the final savings of the season are here. It's your last chance to get deals on seasonal decor, tools, flooring, and so much more. Refresh your home, check off your project list, or simply stock up on the brands you trust. Shop now to grab amazing deals before they're gone. Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 1/7. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
DSW, birthplace of the humble brag. Here, the shoes are so good, no one would ever know how little you paid. If you didn't go telling everyone, that is. And with never-ending options for every style, mood, and occasion, all at really great prices. We'll definitely give you something to brag about. So go ahead, stock up on fresh sneakers from your favorite brands. Or try those boots you always secretly knew you could pull off. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or DSW.com.
If you're an HVAC technician and a call comes in, Grainger knows that you need a partner that helps you find the right product, fast and hassle-free. And you know that when the first problem of the day is a clanking blower motor, there's no need to break a sweat. With Grainger's easy-to-use website and product details, you're confident you'll soon have everything humming right along. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
What's up, Canuck fans? Welcome to the Nucks Report, a proud presentation of DraftKings Sportsbook, as well as a proud member of the Hockey Podcast Network. Be sure to check out the network for your favorite podcast covering your favorite team at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com, the home of hockey podcasts, every team, everywhere. It is Friday, December 26th, 2025. I'm wishing you all a very Merry Christmas and happy holidays. Let's dive right into our first topic. Let's not waste any time, and let's go ahead and do it. And that is, it's being reported that there's more drama involving the Vancouver Canucks. Shocking, right? Everybody remembers the Miller PD rift from last season. It took over the entire season. It was the main topic, I should say, talking topic of the entire season. Nobody was really talking about the way the Canucks were playing. They were more so talking about the rift. Apparently there's more drama involving Elias Pettersson, this time with Quinn Hughes. It's currently being reported that PD and Hughes, who were very close, having only been drafted a year apart, and apparently, what I should say is, it all stems from the Miller PD rift from a year ago. So that's the whole timeline. It's within the last year. Apparently, Hughes had grown increasingly frustrated with PD and his work ethic and training regimen. So let's go ahead and check out an article that talks about this in detail. As you can see here, this article is actually from the Daily Hive. I will post a link to the article and actually every article that I use in this video in the description down below. Another wrinkle of Vancouver Canucks drama has been revealed in the aftermath of the Quinn Hughes trade. It's been over a week since the Canucks faithful said goodbye to their former captain. After the deal, it was revealed by the Athletic's Mike Russo and Joe Smith that Hughes held a send-off dinner with select Canucks teammates while in New York. Brock Besser, Tyler Myers, Connor Garland, and Philip Hronek were all reported to attend the send-off, but there was nothing about Elias Pettersson being there. Seems strange that a fellow Canucks star and a big part of the leadership group would be left out of such a thing. The two players grew up in the organization together and went through the same ups and downs throughout each other's careers, yet according to the province's Patrick Johnston, there had been some friction between the two players over the past year or so. Certainly for a long time, the two were close, Johnson wrote. Sources who knew them say Hughes played a big role in supporting Pettersson last season when things were were well and truly falling apart between the center and JT Miller. Things, however, seem to have deteriorated over the past year. The Canucks' prolonged struggles didn't help, but Johnson says that Hughes was starting to take issue with Pettersson's work ethic. The Swede has been plagued with questions around his conditioning in recent years, and that seems to have rubbed some of his teammates the wrong way. That is, despite reports that Pettersson ramped things up over this last summer. As happens, the two have drifted apart. Sources have said Hughes and Pettersson have generally just drifted apart. As important Hughes was in supporting his teammate last season, he still had grown frustrated with Pettersson's work ethic. Pettersson being poor in his offseason preparation has been a frustration for teammates of his before. Hughes, it would seem, was struggling to see a way forward here, even after Pettersson did dial it up. Too little, too late, it would seem. The future of the franchise is in a state of uncertainty as it stands, with Hughes gone and the team now committed to entering some sort of rebuild or hybrid retool. A decision will have to be made on whether Pettersson fits into the organization's long-term plans. This is now two prominent teammates that Pettersson seemingly didn't have great relationships with. If he were playing at his best, a team may overlook that, but it gets harder to do so as his struggles continue. Interesting times are ahead in the Pacific Northwest, and many more important decisions will need to be made in the next little while. Let's not forget, it's not just teammates. Apparently, we heard last year that Pettersson doesn't really get along with the Sedin twins. But I'm not sure if that's been patched up or if that was even true. So, yeah, there is the first topic. There's drama between Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson. First, it was Miller and Petey. And then it was Hughes and Petey. I do have to kind of question this a little bit just because I feel as though it's a little silly. I mean, I kind of think it's nothing, but I'm also a little confused by this too because, as was mentioned in the article, Hughes backed Elias Pettersson last year during his, rift with JT Miller. He was on PD's side. And now he's suddenly flipped the script and is frustrated with PD's work ethic, which is understandable, and he has every right to be frustrated with it. After all, he was the captain. But we heard all throughout the summer that PD was really ramped up his off-season training. He gained some muscle, and apparently that wasn't good enough for Quinn Hughes. I mean, that's what I'm reading here. But I want you guys to let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about this new drama now between Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, that they drifted apart over the last year? Let me know in the comment section down below. But let's go ahead and continue the Quinn Hughes conversation as let's go over our second topic, which is going to be about the trade offers that the Vancouver Canucks received for Quinn Hughes. Everyone has said that the Canucks got the best offer they possibly could have gotten from the Minnesota Wild, and that's why they took it. But we're going to dive into it and really find out if they actually did by comparing all of the offers, at least the reported offers, and from the 6 teams that were all vying for Quinn Hughes' services. So let's go ahead and bring it up. Actually, I know I just said 6 teams. Technically, it is 7, but I don't really count this first team because I don't think this offer, quote unquote, really got very far. So I kind of omitted it. But it was the Buffalo Sabres offer and it's not really confirmed either. So it says the Buffalo Sabres' offer may have centered around Zach Benson and Bowen Byram, who are also 2 BC players. The Canucks have coveted before, but according to Friedman, their offer was not a serious pitch, as was just said there. So that's why I wasn't really reading into the Buffalo Sabres offer. Philadelphia Flyers were speculated about heavily due to the Rick Tocchet connection, but quote unquote didn't have the center, as Friedman put it. Other rumors had the Canucks asking the Flyers for prospect Porter Martone and defender Cam York, but there has been nothing concrete about any specific offer. The New York Rangers were surprisingly in on Hughes, but didn't quote-unquote have enough. ESPN speculated that the Canucks had asked for a slew of young players, including Gabe Perreault, Will Cooley, Noah Laba, and the long-sought-after Braden Schneider. But in the words of Wisniewski, sorry if I mispronounced that, the Rangers did not want to part with the requisite players to acquire Hughes, whatever that means. Now, this is a little interesting. I'm a big fan of Cooley's. So I would have loved to have had a guy like Will Cooley. So that is very interesting that the Canucks wanted him. And we've heard about the Canucks being interested in Cooley in the past. But let's move on to the next team. One of the teams we've got the most detail on are the Washington Capitals. According to most of the scuttlebutt there, the Canucks were asking for the likes of Ryan Leonard and one or both of the Giant brothers, Alexei and Ilya Protas, but some are saying that the Capitals refused to give up any of the three. The Capitals' counter offer reportedly centered around Connor McMichael and Cole Hudson, which didn't really get them in the running at all. So obviously a lot of people are talking about Ryan Leonard and how, the Canucks wanted him. And the Capitals were like, we're not willing to give up this kid just to get Quinn Hughes for... And I think a lot of this stemmed also from... and they weren't sure if Hughes would sign long-term with the Capitals or if a, trade and sign would be put into place. Well, not really put in place, but they didn't have a guarantee that Quinn would stay long-term in Washington. So that might have also been a reason why the Capitals flat out refused to give up or even think about giving up Ryan Leonard, as well as either of the two Protas brothers. The Red Wings always made sense as a destination for Hughes, who referenced being close to Michigan as a goal of his in the aftermath of the trade. But then we have an idea of what the Canucks were asking for, and it was big. And it was big. Star left defenseman Simon Edvinsson, one of the two young centers, and Nate Danielson and Marco Kasper, recent first-rounder Michael Brantzig-Nygaard, and a first-round pick. Now, this is the first package we've heard that even approaches the actual return in terms of value. Edvinsson is one of the few young left-handed defensemen in the game who could be argued to have a brighter future than Bouillon, though that's a matter of personal preference. Both Danielson and Kasper could be said to have higher upside of a less certainty than Rossi. Brantzig-Nygaard is a younger prospect than Ogren and has developed a bit better post-draft. The Detroit first-round pick will probably end up higher than the Minnesota one as well. From a certain perspective, this offer could be seen as better than the Wild's. Really, it's a bit of a toss-up. It largely comes down to that preference being a more offensive young defenseman in Bouillon or a more all-round talent in Edmondson. In any case, however, it's a bit of a moot point as the ESPN reports that the Wings balked at a portion of that package. We had to guess that portion was very likely Edvinsson. Let's move on to the next one. The Carolina Hurricanes are one of those teams that seem to be in on everything, so it was no surprise to hear their name mentioned. Friedman finds their side of the story interesting because when it came to their offer, a few sources indicated Vancouver looked hard at it. Friedman even describes the Hurricanes as the front runners until Minnesota showed up. Friedman speculates that this must have meant the offer included young left-handed defenseman Alexander Nikishin, and it's hard to dispute that claim. There's really no other piece in the Carolina system that would have made them the front runner aside from Nikishin. Like Edmondson, Nikishin is one of the few younger left-handed defensemen out there who could be said to be a more valuable asset than Bouillon. Again, that's more a question of personal preference, but Nikishin was considered one of the best players outside the NHL before making his debut in the playoffs last year, much like Bouillon. One has to imagine that BC-born center Logan Stankoven was part of the offer too. A combination of Nikishin and Stankoven, perhaps supplemented with some picks and prospects, should have been enough to grab the Canucks' attention. That is until Minnesota grabbed more attention, perhaps because of the quality of the sweeteners in Ogren and a first, or perhaps because they preferred Bouillon and Rossi to Nikishin and Stankoven, which is a reasonable conclusion, if not an automatic one. There will be some who prefer a Nikishin-centered package due to his size and physicality. There are definitely those who prefer Stankoven due to his local ties, but given the actual NHL numbers thus far, it's not too tough to see why the Canucks chose to go with Bouillon and Rossi as the centerpieces instead. Krajcek and Wisniewski mentioned a brief Hughes for Nico Hischier conversation that went nowhere. Friedman mentions a package centered around young right-handed defenseman Simon Nemec and probably center/winger Dawson Mercer. Krajcek and Wyshynski, sorry if I butchered that again, reported that Vancouver wanted Anton Silayev, the 6'7" left-handed defenseman drafted 10th overall in 2024, and a first-round pick attached to that package. What we don't know is whether or not New Jersey was willing to do that. Both ESPN and Sportsnet agreed that the Devils were ultimately unable to clear the salary cap they needed to accommodate Hughes due to the preponderance of no-trade clauses on their roster. Most sources speculated that folks like Andre Palat and Dougie Hamilton refused to waive their clauses as part of the negotiations, but Friedman wasn't so sure. The Devils had some 14 players with some form of protection on their contract, meaning it could have been any number of individuals getting in the way of a trade. In any case, the Devils fell out of talks as a result, and the Wild's offer still stood alone as the clear-cut winner. On its own, that offer does compare quite well to the Wild return, though the Canucks probably preferred a left-handed defenseman in a Hughes trade to a right-handed defenseman. Nemec is one of the best young defenders in the sport, and at least in the same realm of value as Bouillon. Skipping ahead a bit, Silayev is probably considered a stronger prospect than Ogren, and the Devils' first could end up higher than Minnesota's. But the big gap here is in Mercer to Rossi. At this point, it's tough to call Mercer a de facto NHL center, and his future seems more likely on the wing. He's also just been a lot less productive than Rossi of late. Seems most reasonable to conclude that Bouillon, Rossi, Ogren, and a Minnesota first at least edges out an offer of Nemec, Mercer, Silayev, and a New Jersey first, and that's without considering any of the cap clearing complications. It also seems reasonable to conclude that the Minnesota package also outvalues the theoretical Carolina package of Nikishin and Stankoven, prospect, and a first. It's closer there and more up for debate, but there's a reason the Canucks quickly took a preference for the Minnesota offer when it hit their table. The only offer even talked about that had the potential to outdo the Minnesota package was that Detroit package of Edvinsson, Kasper / Danielson, Brandzig, Nygaard, and a first. But then that's more of a coin toss in a head-to-head matchup with Bouillon, Rossi, Ogren, and a first. And in any case, the word is that Detroit turned down that ask anyway. In other words, from everything we've seen and heard, it seems fair to say that the Canucks probably could not have done any better in a Hughes trade than they actually managed to do so. Many said that the Canucks' priority here had to be absolutely maximizing on Hughes' trade value, and it would appear they have done so. So, after hearing that, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. Do you guys think the Canucks got the best offer possible for Quinn Hughes, or do you think there was an offer out there, perhaps from a team not included on this, that outdid the Minnesota offer? Let me know in the comment section down below. All right, I'd like to take a second to thank the sponsors of this Nucks Report. First up, we have we have none other than DraftKings Sportsbook.
Drinking and driving is a decision that will change your whole world. Things will never be the same once you get a DUI, because legal fees and time in court are just the beginning. Getting into a crash is another way your world could be irreversibly changed after drinking and driving. Your vehicle may not be the only thing that gets damaged in that crash. You could face a life-altering injury or even death. But you're not the only one who could face those consequences. Your decision to drink and drive could permanently change someone else's world. whether you injure them or leave their loved ones grieving. The next time you're out drinking, call a rideshare, a taxi, a sober friend, or a designated sober driver. Always plan for a safe ride home. The only decision that'll change your world for the better is the decision to call for a sober ride. It's never worth it to drive drunk. Don't risk it. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
The Lowe's Closeout event means the final savings of the season are here. It's your last chance to get deals on seasonal decor, tools, flooring, and so much more. Refresh your home, check off your project list, or simply stock up on the brands you trust. Shop now to grab amazing deals before they're gone. Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 1/7. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
The jaw-dropping moments that make hockey, well, hockey. Experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, this one's just for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager. Tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which will expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. Copyright of the NHL 2025, all rights reserved. I want to thank my secondary sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of that fine artwork that you always see on display behind me, as well as right here in front of you. Go ahead and check them out at gassjackart.com. Now, our third and final topic is about Evander Kane's trade value. Obviously, the Canucks are going to be at some point trading Evander Kane, or at least trying to. We heard Rutherford and Alvin say that they are focused on trading away all of their veteran UFAs. So, remember how before it was, just veterans? Well, now, they are focused on the veteran UFAs, which means Kiefer Sherwood, Evander Kane. So I get, at least in my opinion, that kind of rules out Connor Garland and takes him off the block, which I'm totally okay with, because I still feel as though we need to keep Connor Garland, and that's just a personal preference of mine, as I absolutely love Connor Garland. So what really is Evander Kane's trade value? What is he worth? What can the Canucks even get for him? I mean, he's almost 35 years old. He hasn't been all that great here with the Canucks this season. I would say he's been, middling. He's got some baggage with him, with his past off-ice antics. You're not going to be getting the same level of trade value for Evander Kane that you would say, or that you would get for, say, Kiefer Sherwood. He's not going to go for a first or second round pick, at least in my opinion. What I should say is Kiefer Sherwood is very likely to go for either a first or second round pick. Evander Kane isn't going to fetch you that. And that's just me being realistic on that. Kane may not even fetch you a third round pick at this point. Best you might get could be a fourth, maybe even a fifth. A fourth round pick is, of course, what the Canucks gave up to acquire Evander Kane six months ago. And if you want to be technical, technically, the Vancouver Canucks acquired Evander Kane for Vasily Podkolzin because we traded the pick we acquired in the Podkolzin trade to get Evander Kane. So essentially, we traded Podkolzin for Kane. We'll touch on Podkolzin a little bit later, but let's take a look at this article that talks about his trade value. After finally using the word rebuild to describe the Vancouver Canucks, Evander Kane is a obvious player for Jim Rutherford to trade, or will Patrick Allvin be allowed to make this deal? A little cheeky little comment there. I like it. An unrestricted free agent at season's end, the veteran winger turns 35 in the summer and doesn't figure to be in the team's long-term plans. It was a bumpy beginning to Kane's Canucks tenure, as the Vancouver native took 14 games to score his first goal of the season. Pair that with a $5.125 million cap hit, and it didn't look like Kane would be worth anything on the trade market. But is that starting to change? Kane has been the Canucks' highest scoring player since November 17th, with 9 points in 15 games. His stats on the season now read 18 points, 6 goals, 12 assists in 35 games. That puts him on pace for 42 points on the season. Any takers? Whispers surrounding Kane's off-ice conduct have followed him throughout his career, so his value likely varies depending on the general manager. He also has a modified no-trade clause, which has 16 teams in his contract, which could limit things. We'll see if a team talks themselves into trading a second-round pick for Kane, as Thomas Drance mused in The Athletic. That would be a big win for the Canucks, given they traded a fourth-rounder to get Kane just 6 months ago. Mason Marchment, who has posted similar numbers to Kane, recently netted the Seattle Kraken a 2027 second-round pick and a 2026 fourth-rounder in a trade with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Listed at 6'2", 218 pounds, perhaps there's a playoff team that would like to add Kane's size, scoring, and experience to their lineup at the March 6th trade deadline. They could even be more convinced if the Canucks are willing to retain salary. No thanks. Would the Edmonton Oilers welcome him back? Just a thought. And on that note, we talked about Vasily Podkolzin. Why don't we do Podkolzin for Kane? I mean, I really do feel as though this management group messed up big time by giving up too soon on Podkolzin. And that, honestly, that trade, that initial Podkolzin trade is really biting the Canucks in the ass, considering how well Podkolzin has played in Edmonton. Sure, you can chalk it up to the old McDavid / Draisaitl bump, but I think Podkolzin has played great in Edmonton, and I would absolutely love to get him back. And yeah, why don't we just do Kane for Podkolzin? See if the Oilers are willing to do that. I think it's definitely worth a try. Kane is one of 5 pending UFAs on Vancouver's roster. Kiefer Sherwood, Teddy Bluger, David Kampf, and Derek Forbort are the others. Of course, if the Canucks are truly rebuilding, they'll consider trading other veteran players as well. Connor Garland and Thatcher Demko each have no movement clauses that kick in when their new contracts take effect on July 1st. They can be traded without restriction, but before then, players with no movement clauses in their current deals include Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, Jake DeBrusk, Philip Hronik, Marcus Pettersson, Tyler Myers, and Kevin Lankinen. That doesn't mean those players can't be traded, but it does make a deal more difficult, not to mention potentially more awkward. Niels Höglander can be traded without restriction, though he's not exactly at max value right now, coming off an injury. Drew O'Connor would have value, though he has a 12-team no-trade clause in his contract. We'll see how much Canucks management is willing to lean into losing in the name of acquiring a high draft pick. Vancouver is currently ranked 31st out of 32 teams in the NHL standings with a 15, 18, and 3 record. So that is our 3 main topics here on the Nucks Report. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. Just a reminder, join the discussion. Join our Discord. There's a link in the description down below. It's completely free to join. You can find and interact with us all over social media. We're everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. Feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. And if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow, as well as rate and review us on either platform. It is, of course, greatly appreciated, and it really helps out the podcast as well. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And as always, let's go Canucks. And I'll catch you guys in the next Nucks Report, which will be in the new year. Also, just a quick note, we could potentially be moving away from Fridays due to my work schedule changing, but I will keep you guys posted. Once again, happy holidays, and I wish you guys a very happy new year.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening. Happy holidays! Want to give your host a gift? Consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show this holiday season. It really helps the show grow. From all of us at Believe, have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy Holiday.